Now, stay tuned to Vinyl Community Podcasts.
All right, buddies, welcome back to Vinyl Community Podcasts. This is Concert Buddy. This is my series where I'm talking to folks in the vinyl community and on YouTube and places here, there, and everywhere. Joined by somebody I've been trying to track down for a hot minute, north of the border, the one and only Steve Westman. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this. This is the first time where I'm on the opposite side of things, so I'm a little nervous.
Listen, I'm gonna grill you. I'm gonna grill you like a cheap steak. So just get ready, Steve.
God, okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. Well, thanks for inviting me. This is awesome.
No, my pleasure, sir. So let's just kind of kick it off and just talk about how I found you and familiar your content, and hopefully a lot of the audience watching this and also listening to on the podcast found you, and that's on YouTube. And you've been doing YouTube, if my calculations are correct, you've been doing it for a couple years, right?
So I want to say at least 2 years. I'd have to look back on that, where it give you the history or the about Steve Westman thing. Yeah, about 2 years. But I got started before that, not on YouTube, but during the pandemic, I started a Facebook group it was once called the MoFi Buy and Sell Audiophile.
Member.
There you go. So I started that because, that's when it was really crazy, when you couldn't find vinyl. I mean, I loved MoFi. I've had lots for years. I couldn't find anything. Hated eBay. I still hate eBay. I won't buy anything off of eBay. It's the biggest ripoff going. There wasn't any options out there. I mean, there's other Facebook groups and just didn't have what I was looking for. I said, hey, well, there's no MoFi or Audiophile buy and sell groups. Let's just start one. So I started one. I was the first member. My wife was the second, and a couple of my friends, third and fourth. And started slow, got some traction over, I think it was March of 2020. And I think today, I want to say about 9,100 members, and we have moderators now. And I'm sort of hands off with that. I don't do as much as I used to, but but it's was quite interesting to really meet a lot of people. And that's really how I got my start, because I really wanted to expand that. I'm like, I'm interested in doing YouTube stuff and talking about my journey and my experiences with vinyl. And I'll be the first to tell you, I mean, I say my channel is the Audiophile channel, but I'm just I'm looking for the audiophiles to come on my channel. I mean, that's what I do. I'm not saying that I know any more or less than anyone else, and I don't have golden ears or anything like that. I don't think
complete disclaimer. I
don't think anyone does, and it's funny because I'm actually going to do a show on that. I'm bringing on an audiologist to basically talk about that, about the myth of golden ears. And anyways, I'll get into that in one of my shows as well. So I just did it because during the pandemic, there's lots of more free time being at home, and I wanted to try the YouTube thing out. I'd watched Michael 45. I've been a fan of Mazzy, Melinda Murphy, you name it. All those people are like, oh, wow, this is great. Or even Mike from the In-Group was a big inspiration, watching all his shootout videos as well. So I'm like, I want to throw my hat here and do it, right? And I had a little bit of a base, right? Because I had the MoFi buy and sell. So I would shoot a video and then post it on that. And I guess two or three people would watch it. I'm not kidding. It didn't start off. It started off very slow. I was excited to get to like 100 subscribers. I mean, that was
big move. Yeah,
it's 100. I'm like, okay, so how do I get from 100 to 500? How's that going to look?
Scaling.
But again, I think this is more, we're talking about today. We're trying to appeal to YouTubers as well. Is that part of what we're doing?
No, listen, it's just more of a get to know you, because like you said, like what you do on your channel is more of, you talk about your records, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but you also have your round tables where you bring a lot of people together, people who you just had said, self-admittedly, more subject matter expert, more schmee than you attest to. And
I just bring in people. I mean, a lot of people say, how does he get all these guests? I mean, I think really what it is, it's relationships.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So the people that I bring on, I have relationships with every single person. It's not just like I call them up or email them and say, you got to be on my roundtable show. That's not how it works.
So it's not blackmail. You're not independently wealthy. I just want to be clear that
I'm not paying anyone. I'm not like that. That guy? What's that ex-football player, Pat McPhee or whatever? He's paying like Aaron Rodgers $1 million per
that's
podcast.
Crazy. Wow.
I mean, I'm waiting for my chance here for $1 million for this podcast. But so no, none of that. It's funny too. It's just about building relationships and getting to know people. I'm like, hey, I'd love to have you on, and sort of that's how it really happens. And it's funny, my first big break, I did video after video, and you look back at some of these videos, I've left them all up. The first year sucked. I don't care who you are. They're I wouldn't say embarrassing, but they're not the greatest.
The
But
Bambi legs, you got to have them to get to where you want to be. 100%.
It's all about experience and growth. Like life isn't this, and nor is your YouTube experience. It's going to be all this. I mean, you looking back, it's a growth, it's an experience, and it's a journey. And I want to share that journey by leaving that stuff up there. But thank God no one watches my early stuff, because it's brutal.
Well, one thing I want to ask you about the YouTube experience is, you strike me as somebody who's really positive about what you're doing and the content you're putting out there. And I'm sure you can attest, or maybe you can't. Maybe you're in a golden bubble. But there are some naysayers, and I particularly know this in what's called the audiophile community, because there's a lot of opinionated folks, right? So how do you rise above the fray and continue to just kind of be authentic and stick true to like making this an informative experience, sharing information where you've got a lot of the chatter around you?
So I'm a very enthusiastic, positive person. And that's what it is. I'm enthusiastic. I love what I do. It's a great hobby that we're involved in, collecting records. You have record collector there. I mean, that's what I am. I mean, this audiophile thing, I think maybe it's not, audiophile is everyone, because you love listening to music. If you can listen to music, you're pretty much an audiophile. Exactly. And today, all music or all records that are out there are produced really well, more or less. I mean, on average, they're really good. It's basically, it goes from good, better, even better than the last. You know what I mean? There's no like, oh my God, this is the best, because it's so subjective. Music, your gear, it depends on your gear. And I've done shows in this. It depends on your gear. It depends on your mood. It depends how much booze you're drinking that night. It depends if you got into a fight with your wife or your significant other before or after. There's so many factors that go into this. Doing blind shootouts, all that. And I get into like, what do I call it? Perceived bias, where you have $150, One Step or Analog Productions UHQR, and you're going to shoot it out with 4 other of your records. Well, 9 times out of 10, you're going to say the UHQR is the best, because it's perceived that way based on the fact that you bought it for $150 and you've been watching YouTube and reading all the forums, and oh my God, this is the best record. Well, pretty much that's what's going to happen. So I'm going, my next shootout will be completely blind, and I'm really I guess really lucky too, because I have people that can help me do a really good blind test at the Hi-Fi Center, where I do a lot of my shows. Mm-hmm. One of my sponsors as well. So, and we got great gear there. I got, I'm just fortunate and blessed. I got incredible gear to incredible listening rooms as well. So I got, it's nice to basically do it all there.
Let's give them a quick plug. Let's talk about the Hi-Fi Center for a second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Hi-Fi Center, that's where I do I'm sponsored by them. So, I mean, I obviously get to test all their gear, bring it all home, get deals on the gear that I have, that type of thing. So it's been a great relationship there. And another thing, I mean, if you're doing YouTube, it's not like anyone's phoning me up and going, "Hey, Steve, I want you to come to my store and show off what I have." I had to go and approach everyone. Everything I've done, I've approached everyone. It's not like the phone hasn't been ringing. Oh my God, Steve, I want you here. I wish. That'd be amazing. And that's the one thing. I mean, I'm in the film industry as well here in Vancouver, and it's like, you got to go out there and do it on your own. No one's going to ring that phone for you. True. You got to basically, you have to deliver something as well. And I tell everyone that too. So, I mean, you got to go out there and push. And I was a stockbroker for 20 plus years as well. And, I started off when I was 21 years old as a stockbroker, 21 years ago, 21 years old. So that's a long time ago now.
Many moons.
I turned 50 in November, and it feels like it was 2 minutes ago, but that's okay. No, so I mean, it was like back then, being a young stockbroker, you had to basically go and find clients. No one was going to come.
You got to hunt.
Because you can, you can basically give them access to the stock market. It's no different. If you want success, success it's pretty much a common thing in any field. It's just about being proactive, going out there and grabbing it, but being enthusiastic and doing it because you believe in it. And getting back to your question, I believe in what we're doing here. I believe in vinyl records. I've been collecting since 1986, I think, was when I bought my first record. I'm sure I've said that story in my shows before, and I can get into that. But I mean, that's what it is. It's a love of music. It's pretty much bottom line what it boils down to.
No, you're right. You get in what you put in. I 2,000% agree with that. But that's a great segue, Steve. This is not really scripted, but you're giving me a great segue point. Talk about your collecting journey.
Oh boy,
starting in 1986. Guys, wrote it down.
You know, it's really. I was just thinking about something before we go forward. This is really interesting. If I shaved the last couple of days, but if I didn't, and you had taken your cap off.
Listen, you have a great hairstylist. Yeah, we have.
Look at this. Like, I mean, I've had the same hairstyle, and I can tell you since it would have been April of 2003.
Okay, well, you have me beat on the years and the hairstyle acceptance. Now, I like a lot of us. It's funny. We'll get back into the interview in a second. It's funny you're talking about this because a coworker recently approached me and told me a story. There's a subreddit called R Bald, and it's a lot of guys. And listen, we're a couple of follically challenged guys. I'm just calling it out. Who I guess they go to the internet to ask approval, and so they'll show their hair and say, "Should I or shouldn't I?" And if you get to that point where you've got to ask random internet strangers if you should be shaving your head at point, I think you've already answered your question. Am I wrong?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there you go. You can take the cap off and amazing. My doppelganger, I guess. No.
Listen, you got me on age. I got you on pounds, so I'm working on it.
Well, how do you know? You haven't met me in person. I mean, come on. But anyways.
Good stuff.
No. So my record collecting, I mean, 1986, I was 12 years old. I would have been 13 that year, and I would get an allowance for shoveling snow. I lived in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So if you know where that is, that's in basically the heart or the middle of Canada. So 40 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, which is the same as minus 40 Celsius that we have here. It is cold, and that's without a wind chill. So it's colder. So, I mean, what do you do in the wintertime? You really listen to music. I did listen to music. I played hockey outside, did all that stuff. But when you listen to music, you need something to listen to. So I had a decent stereo system. My dad had what he really liked, and I still have a system, like a Pioneer, I think it was a Pioneer turntable and amplifier, and I've got Paradigm speakers that he had in his day, a decent system, and the speakers I still run for my kids as well. And I needed records for it. I mean, he had records as well, and I was happy enough and glad enough to inherit his collection. I've got a crap load in my garage. That's the thing, I've talked about this before, I don't have the space for all this stuff, and that's the thing about 45 RPM records, all these box sets. You run out of space. I've got kids running around at home, and I'm like, I don't know how people do it. It amazes me. So I've got the records that I actually play and love and listen to are in my house, and the ones that I have to store are outside in my other garage with a carriage house on top. So I mean, I've got room, but I just
how do you make the cut? Everything. How do you make the cut? Because it sounds like an A room and a B room. Is there a real? I've
got in my house. I've got a kid/vinyl listening room where all my vinyl's been kept with just a basic system with because my 4-year-old likes records. So she's got Peppa Pig, all this stuff, and I don't let her put the record on, but it's what is it? So I can't remember. It's a Sony turntable I've had for years, but you literally just press play and it just does it all for you. It's perfect for kids. You can't screw it up. So they have that. I've hooked it up some Paradigm speakers and old Cambridge amps. So they play the records in there. Like we got, what do we got in there? Olivia Rodrigo's been playing. We got some Lana's always playing in there. I mean, Peppa Pig plays once in a while. My 4-year-old likes Lana. She likes Olivia Rodrigo. We were listening to Charlotte Cardin last night, does a song Confetti. She's a Canadian from Quebec. I mentioned her in one of my videos the other day. So yeah, I mean, so my kids are involved in vinyl. I love that, and that's because of my love and my passion. So I mean, if it's good to have the family involved. I've done blind shootouts with my kids. We did a blind shootout of Asia as well. And it's funny, and they're all very musically inclined and gifted. I mean, they play piano, guitar, all that stuff, right? And it's like they had never listened to Asia before, and so getting their take on that album versus people that have listened to it since 1977 when it came out, completely different. It's funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then in the other setup, let's call it off campus, out of the main living quarters, you said you have records there. Is that like your man cave? Is that your?
I don't have, and I see all these. I see these guys do their I will do a tour of my listening rooms. Okay. The thing is, my wife is a psychologist, so she has an office upstairs in her house where my actual main gear is. but I never get to, I can do it at night and listen at night. But it's just, when you have all these people in this house, I look at everyone's listening rooms. I see these tours. I wish I had the room for this, and I don't, but we make do with what we can. So yeah, we have 2 listening rooms, one for the kids and one for my serious listening. But I do not do shootouts in my house, just because the acoustics aren't like they are at the Hi-Fi Center, and you've seen the rooms. I think you saw probably some of the tours that I've done of that when Mazzy was here. So when I do my serious shootouts, and I haven't done one for a while because I haven't been really that motivated. I'm just going back to I love music, so I mean I'm more motivated just listening to what I have, and I've gotten a lot more into my original. I have a lot of original Canadian presses these days. So getting back to collecting records since 1986, we didn't answer that. So I was 13 and would take the bus minus 40 Fahrenheit, cold out, had a $20 bill, and I'd go to the different record stores. If anyone knows Winnipeg, there was a one called Records on Wheels, was one of my favorite, and that's the one I would go to. There's another one called Comic World, if you're watching anyone from my hometown. And then I'd go to the more, I can't remember the names of them now, but more of the corporate. Did
you have like Tower Records? Did you have
no, we never had Tower Records in Canada, so no, definitely not. But anyways, the chain one, Sam's, I think it was like Sam wasn't Sam, it was Sam the Record Man. That's the one. It was a Canadian one. They're based out of Toronto. They used to be in Yonge Street in Toronto. They were huge. So Sam the Record Man, and anyway, couple of other ones as well. I think there's one called Discus as well. So close to Discogs, it was called Discus in Canada as well. So I'd go to all those ones and buy stuff. But yeah, I'd have a $20 bill. And my very first record that I purchased when I was 12 years old was a mono revolver, but obviously by the Beatles, Canadian edition. I still have it today, and it plays great. It doesn't sound as great as my 2014 mono box, but not bad.
So when it comes to obviously being in Canada, do you have a natural deference to want to get the Canadian pressings first, even today? Is it like just a natural like countryman kind of thing, or are you truly at this point? Are you looking for top? Are you looking for like top tier? How does that work?
A lot of the Canadian pressings use the same plates as the U.S. pressings, or vice versa, so it's not a big deal. I'm finding a lot of those pressings sound great. I mean, the old pressings from the 80s and whatnot, very thin, like 120 gram vinyl and stuff like that. But I mean, I've got a lot of I got pretty much all the Rush originals from Canada, and you name it, I've got it thanks to my dad. So I like them. They sound great. I mean, in their day, that's the way they should have sounded, because that's what was happening in the day. I mean, that's the FM radio and everything. So when you hear these remixes today, the Beatles getting remixed or whatever, that's trying to capture a new audience today, and I respect that. I don't necessarily think it's the best sounding, but I respect what they're trying to do. It's a huge business, right? And that's the thing I think we sometimes forget. Analog Productions or MoFi or any of these people, they're out to make money. This isn't
it's not a charity.
This isn't PBS television here. They're not doing telephone thons here trying to get some money to produce their next record. I mean, they're here to make money. They got to pay the licensing, their staff, everything. And I get all of that. So I mean, I get MoFi, I get Analog Productions where they feel their product's the best, and I understand why. They have to. I mean, if they didn't, they won't be selling records. So as a consumer, I respect that. As a YouTuber, I love doing reviews. And today, the way records are made and produced and recorded and mastered, and the equipment used, most of them sound pretty damn good. I mean, I don't think many can argue that.
True story. Except this Poison Flesh and Blood reissue. Apparently, it sounds terrible. I'm just putting a record out there.
Dude, I won't listen to Poison. You kidding me? Come on.
It's very polarizing. Now, so going back, when you first started, were there certain genres that you really dug into first, or was it like, were you into like the Canadian artists?
It's funny because 1986, the Beatles had only been broken up for 16 years. So think about that. I mean, right now, Nirvana's no longer a band, but they, obviously
it's been 30 years.
There you go. That's old now. But when I started, 16 years wasn't a lot for the Beatles, and I felt that was old. So I love the classic music. My dad listened to that. My mom listened. So it was all the classic rock, and we'd have classic rock on the radio in the car. So you name it, it was classic rock is where I started. And then, of course, we're talking 86. So yeah, I liked some of the soundtracks of the 80s. I bought all the soundtracks, the
Yes.
Top Gun soundtracks. I mean, 16 Candles, the John Hughes stuff. My favorite of all time soundtrack is Pretty in Pink. And the reason why, if you look at the track listing, it's the most eclectic, 10 or 12 tracks you can possibly get on an album. It basically captures and covers really what the essence of the mid 1980s at that time. So I love it. It brings back so many memories. And that's the thing about vinyl records. It's the tangible sort of aspect of it. You get to hold it. You know, there's liner notes, there's pictures. You don't get that in streaming. And the warmth of analog and everything like that, and just, you know, lifting that record, putting it on the turntable, putting the needle down, adjusting your amp, that type of thing. That's what I love about collecting records.
100%. Yeah, no, soundtracks. I love soundtracks. And I don't, when I watch other videos in the community, don't hear a lot about it. I know people collect them too, right? But you have the best of both worlds. You have movies, which I like movies, and I think most people like movies, I think. And then you've got, like you said, like especially like the John Hughes stuff, or even like Tarantino. Like a lot of these directors are very intentional with their music choices. It's part of how they're telling their stories, right? And especially like you're talking about the 80s. There are some things that still have never been repressed. Like there's repressed labels, Mondo and Death Waltz and those guys. They're doing nice work. However, there's still things like 80s and 90s that great to find. So tip it home.
Yeah. So no, the 80s for me is huge because I mean, being a teenager then, or just becoming a teenager in 1986. I mean, a lot of memories there. Pretty in Pink, like I mentioned, which of course, if you didn't know, was mastered by Bernie Grundman from the original analog tapes. I asked him that when I had my when I chatted with him last year, whenever that was. So
and it's not because you're a big fan of Ducky, right? Because that's the one with Ducky. If I'm not mistaken.
Do you know that Ducky at the very end of that movie? I mean, him and Molly Ringwald were supposed to actually get together.
That's urban legend.
That was no, it was not an urban legend. They actually filmed that and they took it out. They went to they do a lot of screenings right prior to the movie coming out, and so basically the pre-screen of this one, the audience did not like the fact that Molly Ringwald and Ducky ended up together. So they shot an alternative scene where it was Molly Ringwald and John Spader, right, the actor, or not John Spader, sorry, Andrew McCarthy. One of the Brat Pack. And it's funny, if you watch that movie, McCarthy's hair is completely, he has a wig on because he had shaved it from another movie. So he had to come back and film that scene. So his hair is completely different than it was the rest of the movie. So now everyone's going to watch that. But if you watch it, listen to the music as well. But Cocktail's another one from Tom Cruise, 1986, 87. Love that.
88. I think it's an 88, isn't it?
There you go. Love that soundtrack. I own that. Top Gun, of course. I probably will do a show on soundtracks of the 80s. I think that it would interest a lot of people. So
100%. Yeah. And shout out to John Cryer, Ducky, who is also one of our follically challenged brethren. He's had to shave his head recently in the last 5 to 10 years. So he has joined us, Steve, on the Razor Revolution. I'm just saying it. Anyway.
Boom. There you go. I noticed that. Yeah. And so is James Spader as well.
James Spader was holding out. He was holding out, but he finally. What was that show? He was like a villain, and then he was like helping the police.
Yeah,
he's been on.
Anyway. Well, I mean, I guess it would be Yul Brynner that started the big bald trend years ago, right? He's bald for bald a long time before you and I were born.
He set the standard. Well, let's talk about what you. I wouldn't say your bread and butter, but like we said in the open about finding folks in the audiophiles. Like a lot of your videos, they're called the audiophiles, right? And then your audiophile roundtable, right? Let's kind of dig in there.
I like that, the audiophile turntable. I'm going to change the name. How did I get to that? Going back, I mean, again, I'll plug another thing. We got the MoFi buy and sell off Facebook. I also started with some other guys from the MoFi group, the Analog Productions fan group, whatever you call it as well. So that's mine as well. That is over maybe 8,000 members. So, I mean, it's nice. And that's how I hooked up with Chad from AP, is because of that.
He's in that group? He was in that group?
He's in that group.
Wow.
He once in a while he'll put in a sneaky little comment to some of those
Of course he will.
Once in a while. But that's how I got started. I basically emailed him, hey Chad, we got this group here. I'd love to have you on my show. Here's my show. And, that's pretty much how it started. I think I did that one last year. But here's the thing. My very first interview I ever did on YouTube for my channel was with Bernie Grundman.
Yes, that's a
talk
good,
about setting the bar high right out of the gate, right? I mean, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, most of us have to work up to it. We don't go right to the Michael Jordans. We have to get like the Bill Cartwrights or the John Paxsons or those kind. But man, I mean,
I went right first right out of the gate. So I mean, the night before, I remember I was, obviously didn't sleep, had all my questions, and and I made the biggest rookie mistake. I thought it'd be really cool to have this interview at just right there as a record store that I went to, and I know the owner. I said, "This is what's happening. We're having Bernie on." And he goes, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And he turned down the music for me. And I was in one of the aisles and sort of in the back of the store, and everything was going great. And then probably 35 minutes in, he had an internet cable guy come, and I guess he didn't realize he was talking to Bernie. So in the background, you hear him now and then, and it's funny. I still get comments today from that show going, Steve, why didn't you find a quieter place? You got the legend on, and you got all these people in the background. I'm like, well, I didn't. That's not the way I wanted scripted, right? I mean, again, you learn from these mistakes. So it's like, you're going to learn from the mistake of having me on eventually. So I mean, you're going to learn from all of this. I mean, I'm hoping when you post this, you get at least 10 views. I mean, that would be amazing.
Oh, so we do okay. We're in the hundreds, sometimes low thousands. I mean, we're building something.
I mean, I'm sure when you had my buddy Rob the Waxed on that, you probably got a lot of views for that one.
Rob is a very interesting fellow, and as he predicted, it opened up a lot of talking. There you go. A lot of different directions.
Well, Rob and I go back. Him and I I was one of his first contacts, first sort of really contacts in the vinyl community. He had posted a couple of things on our MoFi buy and sell group that weren't audiophile related, so I gave him hell for that.
Good.
And then we went back and forth through DM, and then I'm like, okay, I'll just video, and we just did the video chat. And I think Rob and I just started to do the YouTube thing together. So I had, basically picked his brain for a few things in the beginning as well. So yeah, that's how we got our start.
I've heard a couple of people. Arnaldo is another one who said you were one of his first subscribers, right? So there are a lot of folks who are let's call it prevalent in the community or active in the community if it's on the morning live stream with Rachel or doing their own channels or what have you. Yeah. But they all seem to kind of point to you about as a source of somebody to really bounce ideas off of and learn from and that sort of thing. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's cool. That's nice. That's nice to hear. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Talking about this audiophile thing. Yeah. There are a lot of other channels that kind of focus in on really tunnel vision. Is there competition in your mind about these other channels? Do you watch other channels and really get either motivated or I wouldn't say offended, but you know what I mean? Like something in your crawl about facts or whatever. How do you?
Not at all. No, because I think it's about, especially we're getting back. A lot of the YouTubers, the vinyl community are going to be watching this. It's about personalities, right? So you're attracted to a personality first and foremost. Number one, and then the content after that. So I mean, I've been doing this long enough that I think I've got an okay, okay content, and I got a few followers now, thank God. So I mean, it's at this point, it's just a matter of bringing people together. And I do watch other shows. I watched your live stream the other day as well. I watch them all. I don't necessarily comment on some of the stuff, but or say much. I just have it in the background when I'm with kids or whatever like that. Sure. But yeah, and good stuff, by the way. I mean, I love all the streams. I love all the chatter about that. But no, I don't really critique anyone's stuff or, oh my God, he said this wrong. Because I mean, watch my stuff. I'm a human. I make mistakes every day. But people call me on it, which is funny. So I'm like, spelling mistakes here or facts. It's funny, but that's just. I think that's the part of it. It's it's just my authentic self coming out. And I don't have a lot of time to do this. To be honest with you, I've got a full-time job. Right. I mean, fun fact here: I do have 5 daughters altogether.
Wow.
My oldest is I know. My oldest is 21 now, and my youngest, my second marriage, is going to be 4 in December. So you have that sort of in my house, plus going to work full time and then trying to develop relationships and do all this. I look at some of these channels and go, man, you guys do so amazing. I mean, I wish I had more time. I really wish I had more time. And I mean, I definitely want to make more time. Hopefully I will, because I'd like to, do 2, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours a week type of thing going forward. And there's some nights I'm like, okay, everyone's sleeping, so I'll do like a late Audiophile roundtable show. You ever seen those?
I have. It's just you in a room, and you're looking for viewers. I've just like you said, I've been in the gallery creeping because I'm like, what am I going to say to this? Yeah.
So no, I had, because all day I'm thinking about things and read forums. Like I want to just go out there and talk about. And what did I do? It was one last week. I did it like on a Monday night, 11:30. Like literally, my house is sleeping and in my office, and I'm sitting at a desk. I'm like, I'll just do this and put up the thumbnail. And I think it was like something to do with the Beatles. It was always fun. Yeah, the Beatles, the blue and white albums that are supposedly supposed to come out in October now. It could be delayed according to my sources, but yeah. But it will be before Christmas time. But I was told at 1st October, but we're now mid-October and there's been no sign of them yet. But that'll be interesting because it'll all be remixed using the MEL software from Peter Jackson's team. All separate all the instruments and Giles Martin putting them back together to make. Like Mazzy likes to call it the reimagined collection or whatever he calls that. Again, right. For a new audience as well, like I was telling you before, which is great. I like listening to the Beatles the old way, the mono way, or whatever it was first recorded. I mean, you got to remember the Beatles, back in the 60s, it was mono, and they would only spend 6-7 hours basically mixing the stereo version. So they weren't taking a lot of time back then to do it up until really, I guess it would have been, I want to say Let It Be or Abbey Road is when they really went full stereo. So before that it was mono. When you listen to the radio, it was, that mono sort of sound to it. So, I mean, it's good that they're doing that. I haven't decided to buy the new blue and white when it comes out. I'm just curious to know how they're going to package it because they have those 3 songs from the anthology years, right? Free as a Bird and the Now and Then song, which has now been AI'd or remixed as well. Will they include that as part of the blue album, or it'll be a separate album? I think it'll probably be a separate album from the blue and the red. I don't know. We'll see. Well, listen,
you know how they do this. They're going to have color variants. They're going to have alternate covers. I mean, they're going to milk this as much as they can.
And the thing is, and that's nice, and I appreciate that because think about it. It's a business, and I said that at the top. This is a business. All the audiophile record labels out there. This is a business. They're here to make money, because the artist is charging them or the record label is charging them that licensing fee to basically go out and sell that record. So that's really what it is. And so I respect that. So today, records, I feel records have always done it really well since I've been buying them. I think it goes to gear. And that's the one thing I've spent at least the last 6 months or so really saving money by not buying as many of the fancy box sets or UHQR one steps, and just reinvesting that more into my gear and that type of thing.
Makes sense. Do you think I'm hearing a little bit of chatter here lately, and maybe you've heard the same about some of the labels trying to push the elasticity of the pricing, particularly of some of these imports that are coming in, because like you said, like you've got the one steps are 3 digits, you've got Chads and UHQR is 3 digits. Do you feel that as the price points continue to escalate, that could potentially backfire in the sense of getting more people into the hobby?
I'll remind everyone. I mean, let's just basic economics here. I mean, the last 5 years, we've seen housing prices just escalate and skyrocket. We've seen gasoline prices skyrocket. We've seen food prices skyrocket. So I don't know why everyone's complaining about record prices going up. Everyone has to make money. The people that master it, the people that press it, the people that clean the warehouses have to make a living to basically, buy these houses that have gone up in price. So yeah, that's the way life is. It's going to go up. It's gone up. I mean, you look at the stock market. When I started as a stockbroker, the Dow Jones was at just under 5,000, and we had a big party because it hit 5,000. What was that? 1990, whatever that was, in mid 90s. And we're like, okay, maybe it will get to 10,000 in 10 years. And sure enough, what is it today? 32,000? I mean, it's insane what's happened. So when you see things like that, the growth of the economy, you go back to mid 90s where the Dow was at 5, it's now at 32. That means prices have gone up. That means everyone is paying more and hopefully making more. But the problem I think we're faced with, and where the complaints are, is the fact that none of us are making more on average 5-10 years ago in salary or whatever wages, but things have gone up twofold. And I think that's where it is. So people are complaining about record prices going up, but there's a cost to everything. Nothing's free. And remember, right? Oil prices are going up. Well, how do you think you make a vinyl record? It's with oil. Right.
Petroleum. Yep.
Okay, that, and then you transport everything. That costs money. Truck drivers need to make a wage. So again, things will go up. There's no way it's going to be at 125, 150 forever. that's just the price of the market.
Well, I think there is also to that too. I think there's a romanticism about particularly people who got back into vinyl. You have the older people who had it and then they got rid of it. They got into CDs or what have you. They got into streaming, and then they went back and they could go to your thrift stores. They could go to your antique stores and get things for a song. And I think there's that romanticism of that they like that because then they could get their collections back in a way cheap. But now you can't do that. It's not as easy. Those places have dried up, right?
Well, here's the thing. You know, record store owners are smart, right? Where are they going to go to price for their records? Discogs. Yes. So, I mean, you know, if you hear of people getting these bargains at these record stores, either the record store owner does not know anything about Discogs, for one, or don't care, or two, it's a lie. Because, I mean, pretty simple. Punch it in. There it is. That's the price, or pretty much what it should be. So you're not going to get these, you know, oh my God, I just, you know, found a Robert Ludwig hidden in the Goodwill for $2. I mean, come on, it doesn't happen.
Those days are over.
Or I got a, you know, yesterday and today Beatles Butcher cover, second state in Goodwill for $5. They had no idea. Like, it doesn't happen like that. I mean, maybe 100 years ago, or not joking, but maybe, you know, 20 years ago, that's possible.
Right.
Because probably, you know, we've really seen a real increase in record sales the last, 2-3 years. I put my bar graphs up on my channel. I mean, especially the last 2 years, we've seen a huge growth, but still streaming is insane. I mean, the amount, that's where the industry is. Right. And even something called synchronization, there's a huge market for that. It's where basically movies use songs, like we talked about soundtracks, into their music, and that's where artists are making a lot of their money in synchronization licensing fees, and that is huge for them as well. Of course, TikTok is another way where they're licensing their music. So there's different streams and sources now. So vinyl, we've seen a big surge in vinyl, but it's such a small amount relative to everything else. So it's like, great, that's doing well, but no, it's still got a lot of growth, and that's the thing. I think these record labels, they need to start looking at my kids, right? And that's what I'm doing, promoting vinyl, into basically looking at, I mean, okay, the Swifties out there, the Taylor Swifts, all, you know, the Lana Del Rey's, that's, you know, the market for the younger generation, and we want to push them towards vinyl, and that can only be done by maybe us, you know, as a father, parents, that type of thing, pushing them towards that. I mean, I still stream as well. I'm on the train coming to work. I'm going to listen to Spotify, I get it, but and I sometimes use Spotify to listen to an album before I even buy it. Just to get an idea of it, right? So I mean, I need that as a reference. But I mean, you know, I love, again, getting back to teaching my kids, it's tangible, having that record. And remember the first time when I bought my first, you know, few records, and it was a Revolver record, like I was saying. I don't know if we even finished that story, but you know, it was basically it was just basically turn it over, and there was you know, the four of them in their sunglasses sitting in the studio, and I would stare at that like this, and then you turn it over again, the Klaus Voormann cover Revolver with the 4 Beatles faces, and one of them has Ringo hanging off one of their noses. You know that. You know, I love that. I love that so much. I remember actually taking that album to my shops class and actually tracing it with tracing paper and making an actual T-shirt out of it. I was so proud of that. So but Revolver, it meant a lot to me, because in grade 8, Revolver, my music teacher I knew about the Beatles before, obviously, through my parents, but Revolver really hit home, because my music teacher, we reviewed that album in class, listened to it, and you know, Tomorrow Never Knows just blew me away. It just still gives me goosebumps today. Just, you know, the backwards tapes, and, you know, Ringo's drums and that and everything. I love that. I just love that track, and it just sort of just stops at the very end. And then you got to go to side 2. So Revolver has a lot of memories for me, and to this day, I mean, I probably, if someone would say, what's your favorite Beatles album, it would be Revolver #1, but sentimental reasons for it, really, because I think all of them are great. And the #2, Abbey Road, again, all because of the memories. And getting back to what I was trying to say about the tangible aspect of vinyl, it's the memories that are created, and those memories that I've gotten from these records over the years.
I'm with you, and people make fun of me, and they do it to my face. Think. But Huey Lewis and the News, same thing. When I was coming up, my mom had that record and played the tar out of it, and I just loved it, and I still do. Right, so I'm with you. I think that the emotional connection to music, I think, is it can't be understated.
And I mean, Huey was great. I mean, mid-'80s, he was pretty big. I mean, Back to the Future, that soundtrack was big. Power of Love, if you recall, and he was actually in that movie as one of the teachers. He was. He was, I guess, he was one of the teachers that was
talent. He was judging the talent.
The talent judge. That's who exactly it was. That was great. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Well, last thing before we get to the lightning round is
we have a lightning round. Oh my God, you're making me nervous.
No sweating. We hair and makeup. I don't know. Did you go to hair and makeup? No.
Well, obviously.
No, but going back to how you do your content, how do you? I'm preparation, no doubt. I can just tell by the way you hold the roundtables and so forth. But how far in advance are you kind of planning out these ideas, making, reaching out to guests? Like you just had Kevin Gray on again, and I know that was not his first time. I know that was a repeat visit for him. How far in advance are you really thinking of these ideas, these topics? Because obviously some things are very time sensitive. Atlantic 75 just got announced or whatever. And I know that as somebody who's doing this kind of in my own world too, I know that you got to be flexible and nimble to breaking news. But in terms of preparation and how you choose your guests and your topics, how much thought goes into that?
Well, because I only get a few hours a week to actually produce content, the rest of the time when I'm commuting on the train, I'm thinking about things and talking to people or texting people and coming up with ideas and, throwing things back and forth. So really, how much time do I spend outside of actually doing this? Probably a lot. So a lot. So my free time when I'm not at home would be commuting to Vancouver. So my commute's about an hour or so. So that's 5 days a week. There's 5 hours there of me actually thinking about content, going through the different Facebook forums. I don't really read the Steve Hoffman stuff that often, so I don't really get any references from that. I mean, sure. A lot of viewers that will email me or make comments or text me, so I get a lot of ideas from that as well. Facebook groups help. You see what's posted, so you sort of see what's relevant going forward in these groups. So that helps me with ideas as well. And then one of my moderators might say, "Hey, Steve, you should do a video on such and such." Okay, great. I mean, that's sort of how it goes. And then here you go. We'll do the roundtable. And I got certain, I love the people that I have on and built some really great relationships with them. And I think we've sort of gotten to I think it's sort of branded in a way. People expect it. And we do it for Fridays is the big day. Fridays is the big show.
Right. Yeah.
That's the big one, 1 o'clock Friday. And we do, I'm doing one, well, today's Monday. So I'll do one tomorrow, but normally do the Monday, Friday. It just depends on my schedule. It also depends on everyone else's schedule as well. That's the thing. So now that I know we have a set one on the Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific. Everyone sort of knows that now. So
is it by when this airs, this will probably already have happened. But I saw a thumbnail for what you've got coming up here shortly. I'm assuming you're going to talk about the Van Halen box set, right? Coming up?
No. So I just put that one up. That's it. See, this is the thing. That's why you do this. I love the fact that you think that. So you're like, holy crap, this is awesome. So I mean, what we're talking about on Friday is, I'm calling it the Audiophile Roundtable Super Deluxe for the Love of the Music edition. And then the thumbnail is just a super deluxe box set. It happens to be Van Halen. So if you're a Van Halen fan, sweet. There you go.
Love it.
Yeah, I've been around a few years. I can tell you.
You know what you're doing. I can appreciate it.
So we'll talk about the love of the music. So, a lot of time we get lost in, oh my God, I can really hear the bass on this one. It must be, I get it and I love all that as well. But I think that, really getting back to it, and I've mentioned this before, kudos to these artists, first of all. I mean, a lot of these artists don't give a shit about how this sounds as much as we do, which is kind of funny, right? I mean, I'm friends with Kirsten Edgins, and Kirsten did the Shapes and Sounds. So I've asked her before. I mean, she loves the sound of her album, but she doesn't critique it the same way you and I do it.
Right.
Like it's like her and her husband came to visit me in Vancouver, and we had this conversation at lunch, and I'm like sitting there going, man. I mean, I sort of started laughing to myself, and we watch all these YouTube videos of us doing this because it's completely not what these artists do. So I had a good chuckle with myself. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
That's funny. All right. We've done it. Lightning round time. So if you got a seatbelt on that seat, Steve, now's the time you want to fasten it because we're going to hit you with that. All right. So audiophile roundtables or just your interview series. Who is the grail? Let's borrow a term from the hobby. Your grail guest. It has to be a living person because I'm sure some people could say, "Oh, I'd like to interview my mom or whoever."
Oh, so a grail guest I haven't had on yet?
Yes. Who's your top?
Interesting. That is a good question because I've never even thought about that. I don't even go that far in advance. Okay. I do it more based on, okay, what's going on right now? What will people be interested in coming and watching our show? So grail guest, I would like to have more actual artists on. How's that? Just sort of a blanket answer.
See, I would have guessed, and tell me if I'm off base here. I would have thought maybe like Robert Ludwig would have been somebody like.
So let me stop you there. Yeah, I've actually talked to Robert Ludwig. Him and I went back for one full year, back and forth, once, email here, email there, a couple things here or there. And he was retired now, and about a month or so before his retirement, I emailed him again. Hey, Mr. Ludwig. Absolutely, I'm not going to call him Bob.
Yeah,
I'd love to have come on this show, on my show. Really, I know you're retiring. This would be a great opportunity to really, rehash your career. You've got a huge fan base here, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes, you know what, Stephen, thank you so much. I really thought about it, but I'm just not something I'm comfortable in doing.
Oh,
I'm like, so it's like a tough email. It was a tough one. I see the email. I'm like, I sort of shake. I'm okay. Click on it. Read it. Oh, damn. I thought, I was always thinking, okay, maybe this is the day he's going to say yes. And
I'm with you. You're going to get a lot of no's doing this. You hit it on earlier. Something I don't really talk about, but I've reached out to a lot of people too, and no's part of it, right? But you just got to keep trucking and you got to keep pushing forward.
And I think I didn't finish that as well as getting back to my example of being a young stockbroker in Winnipeg. It's all about, you got to go out there and talk to people. It's no different if you're wanting to establish a YouTube channel. I wouldn't just say you're going to just stream and interview people. I think you need to get more credibility by coming up with your own content first and building on that first. And that's what, if you look back at a lot of us, that's what we did. I started off for 2 years, doing some crappy content. Looking back at it now, sure. In its day, I was really proud of it. Don't get me wrong. I was really, and I worked hard on it. And, it was what I'm still happy with it. And I'm still happy with it. I'm just making fun of myself a little bit. But I think sometimes too, we're too hard on ourselves. And, you get a lot of viewers that make some interesting comments. I get it a lot too. So, you guys have drinking games, certain words that I say, they love that. So I say hot. That's a big one.
One of your recent videos, you even let off and you're like, we're going to have a drinking game right now. The amount of times I say hot, so embrace it.
And then my title, I even put hottest. That's the part of the drinking game. So I embrace all that. I appreciate it. You engage with your audience that way. And I really thank you. I thank everyone for watching that. Obviously they're enjoying it. And I see it as well. And I don't know. I think I'm at a good point in my life where I understand all that. I could never imagine doing this as a younger man. I think just the timing of where I am in life and my experiences has really helped me as well.
All right. Number 2 on the lightning round, we got, maybe 2.5. One of your recent videos, you're talking about, like you said, the 5 hottest sounding. So yeah. I think I know this answer, but if you had a title that has not gotten the quote unquote audiophile treatment, and all the labels were like, Steve, what do you want us to press? What would that title be? Well,
I think if you watched my few videos back, I had a fellow by the name of Patrick Milligan come on the round table, and he's the A&R for Rhino. And I straight out told him, I said, look, here's the idea I have. I think you should basically get the Rhino Black Sabbath self-titled, mastered by Kevin Gray, from the original analog UK tapes. Can you do it? Can you do it? So that's the one I dream of, and I said it in my video. I have the original UK, which sounds great, but a Kevin Gray treatment from the analog, the UK analog tapes, Rhino High Fidelity, that would create, I think, the biggest FOMO we've had in years. I would be pre-COVID FOMO, because it would be only 5,000. So,
and all credit to you. We can call this, I'm going to call it the Westman cut.
Okay, thank you.
Steve Westman.
Well, I've already offered Rhino I've offered Rhino my UK original. I'll ship it to Kevin for his reference, because I know Kevin doesn't have that one. I want Kevin to have that as a reference if he cuts the Black Sabbath title. And so I would love to then be able to do a video saying this is the reference record for.
It'd be a good video.
Yeah,
for sure.
So right. I think Rhino knows. Let's just put it this way: Rhino knows it. They know it. Kevin Gray has no authority over it. It's up to Rhino to basically negotiate with Ozzy Osbourne and the boys there, and from there, Patrick Milligan can then get the tape, and it will be couriered to Kevin, and then hopefully I get a call saying ship your record, Westman, and we can call it the Westman cut. As you just said.
You get a test pressing, Steve. That would be the least I could do for it.
Obviously, I would hope to get one of those. That'd be the least I could get. I'd hope. Thank you. Yeah, good idea.
All right. Well, you're Canadian. I'm gonna hit you with this because I've seen the photo on the internet. I did a little research.
So us Canadians go, "How you doing, eh?" That's us Canadians.
No, but I would be remiss because I've seen a photo of you and the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Yep. Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite NHL team?
Well, I'm born and raised in Winnipeg, so it'd be the Winnipeg Jets. My family had season tickets from 1979 until they left in God, 96, I think it was.
The Teemu Selanne team. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Teemu Selanne score his 50th goal in Winnipeg when he's a rookie, where he got a hat trick in overtime, and he throws the glove up in the air and sort of shoots it with his stick. It's a classic replay. So I was at that game. It was the loudest game I've ever been in.
Love it. All right, last one. And you kind of touched on this earlier, talking about your kids and being cool to, like, I wouldn't say turn them on to new music, but show them your love of physical media and then how it translates to modern sound. One day, hopefully far, 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 far from now, when you leave the celestial plane, what happens to your records? Do the kids automatically get first dibs? What does that look like?
I don't know yet. I mean, I don't have any plans of that happening. Like
no one
does, but I could, there's a street right there I could walk across and a bus could go, and this would be my last video ever. I mean, that's kind of morbid, but that's the truth and reality of life. We don't know what tomorrow will bring, and I'm well aware of that. So that's a good question. Probably my wife would then do what she needs to do with them. I mean, I've never really had that. We've had the discussion before. I mean, I don't really look at it as a monetary thing, these records. I really don't. I look at it more as just they're there for enjoyment. If anyone's basically collecting records to retire off of, please don't. I was in the investment business for 20 plus years.
Good luck.
You get a nice stock portfolio, you'll make more money. So what will it happen? Yeah, if the kids want them, or my wife would sell them, or you and your buddies will come knocking on my door looking.
Well, I know a certain guy in Santa Monica that may be right knocking on that door right away, asking if the estate sale is going on. I won't name him, but you know who it is. All right. Well, Steve Westman, you've done it. We've done it under the allotted time. I'm really proud of that. I appreciate you joining me for this episode of Vinyl Community Podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. It was a nice one.
And that was another trip around the turntable. Thanks for listening to Vinyl Community Podcasts.